Hey everyone, Kaye here on my homestead in Tennessee. Today I'm going to be talking about two amazing, wonderful, perennial, wild native plants that you absolutely need to be growing in your garden for those late season fall pollinators. So stay tuned. Okay, the first is Eupatorium serotinum, and the reason I'm giving you the Latin name is because late boneset, which is serotinum, is not the same plant as boneset. Common boneset is perfoliatum. So common boneset is the medicinal plant that is used for dengue fever and all sorts of medicinal uses. I don't have that growing. What I have is late boneset. And late boneset doesn't get a lot of respect because it doesn't have all those medicinal properties. But what it does have are loads of blooms for those late season pollinators because there is nothing else blooming. It is the beginning of September and there isn't another wild plant blooming. And I'm going to show you, I have a meadow with wild plants. And the only thing blooming in that entire patch, it's all just dead because it doesn't get water, it's just rain. This is my meadow. Absolutely everything has gone to seed except for the crabgrass or whatever, except late boneset. Just imagine if I had tall, giant ironweed around the top and more boneset. That would be amazing. And I'm sure this is going to drop a lot of seeds, so that may happen naturally. But anyway, at the end of the season, there's very little blooming for those pollinators, and it's possible we might get a monarch or two, and that's definitely going to be attractive to the monarch, is this plant. I wanted to point out this plant in particular because it came up in my side garden, and I identified it with my plant app. If you have a plant app, it's really easy to identify plants. So I knew it was late boneset, but it didn't start blooming, and it got kind of big. They get, 5 to 8 feet tall. 3 to 8 feet tall. And this came up right in my side garden. And I kept thinking, okay, pull it out. You've got plenty over there. And I never did, and it fell over. It got so top heavy. And then I thought, Kaye, pull it out. It's in the way. It's just, And now the whole thing, even though it fell over, it bloomed up. Yeah. So this has at least 6 stems coming from the base. Actually, I think I just broke one. But you can see it's over my head, and there's several more that are laying there. But at this point, the side garden, there's very little growing anyway. So why not just leave it there for the pollinators? And I'm going to take you over and show you, I filmed in the sun yesterday. Actually, the sun is just starting to break over on the side yard. There's no telling what would have come up in the side yard had I not had my mower mow part of it. There's just so many weeds. And so I said, okay, save this plant and save the wild bergamot. That's really what I was interested in him saving. But he saved all the late boneset also. And now it's a forest of white blossoms. Let me show you how these blooms come in clusters, and these clusters actually wind up being an umbel plant, and pollinators love umbel plants that grow like umbrellas, upside down umbrellas, because they can just land on one and just walk across. And bees don't have to, constantly fly. They can literally walk across these clusters. some plants like Queen Anne's lace and blooming carrot or something, it's just a solid umbrella, which is more attractive. But there's so many blooms here, they can just feast for a whole day over there for sure. So let's go over, I want to show you the other plant and we're going to talk about that as well. But just remember that when you look this plant up online, this is, I'm going to just make sure I say it right, this is Eupatorium serotinum. And the boneset, the common boneset that's used for medicinal purposes, is Eupatorium perfoliatum. And there's some debate online and there's some confusion online about both of the plants I'm going to talk about. So you have to be sure of what you're getting into. And also with any wild plant that you're using for medicinal purposes, use with care, because this is an aster. The aster family is probably the biggest family. This is in the aster family, as well as the giant ironweed, which we're going to talk about next. The aster family can cause allergic reactions in some people, so you just have to exercise caution when you use any medicinal plants. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an herbalist, I am just providing information for you to explore and research for yourself. Let's go check out the giant ironweed. I unfortunately only have 2 plants. I wish I had a ton, but I'm going to save the seeds of the giant ironweed. There are ironweeds that grow all over the country, but what grows here is giant ironweed or tall ironweed. Its Latin name, hang on, is Vernonia gigantea, like giant Vernonia. Goldfinches in particular love to feast on the seeds. I have one plant, the big plant has gone to seed. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's called ironweed because it has this very strong stem, and I challenge you to pull that out with your hands. Very hard to do. So because it has such a strong root structure and a single stem going up, it has a beautiful shape. So it goes up to about chest high before it breaks into branches that go up. And the plant outside my bedroom window was just stunning. I did see goldfinches on the plant when it was blooming, and I'm hoping to see them getting the seeds, but I want to keep some of the seeds because I really want to distribute seeds down where I'm growing most of my boneset. To see them growing together, I saw one blog that had a picture of ironweed and late boneset blooming at the same time together. Oh, purple and white, you can't beat it. So that's what I want to distribute over there in that whole field. And you can also buy giant ironweed plants from a website called Joyful Butterfly. So these are 2 plants you absolutely want to have in your butterfly garden that provides a nectar source for pollinators in the fall when nothing else is blooming. We have had an historic drought in Middle Tennessee, weeks and weeks and weeks without rain. When you're not set up to be watering all these various areas, you're just relying on rain and groundwater. And these evidently, I mean, I'm sure they would do better with more water, but as you can see from the cutaways, the late boneset is doing fantastic with not a drop of additional watering. If you follow my channel, you know I have a terrible problem with deer, and I'm always having to fence off everything. But evidently the deer don't go for the late boneset because you've seen there's so much. This ironweed, the deer don't like either because the leaves are very bitter. Leaves can get, they're very elongated and they can get 2 inches wide to 10 inches long. And no smell. So now this is what it looks like, and these seeds are not mature yet. But I have a lot of opportunities for plants here, and you better believe I am going to be either spreading them or starting my own little sets and putting them where the Boneset is over there, because I want to grow it together. It'll be so fantastic. I'd also like to put some in the meadow, because in the spring and summer I have beautiful coreopsis and other flowers growing in there, but they're all, you know, this tall. And it would be so fabulous to have something taller in the background in the fall when all of the front is brown. It's still early. The sun hasn't hit this section here. This is an area that I tried to redevelop this past year. I planted dahlias, mums, lilacs. I can't even remember what all. I planted daisy, and this variegated periwinkle just takes over. And this is a plant that takes over as well. And I want to talk about that in a separate video, because you absolutely do not want this plant in your garden. So this is the giant ironweed. Let's get it in the sun. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, the other plant had a much bigger spread of branches and was much stronger stem. This is on a slant, on a slope, so it's just kind of hanging over. This is heavy, so the stem didn't develop as strong and straight as the other one. Oh, this is a wonderful plant for pollinators. This is called vervain, and we can talk about that in another video. This is anise hyssop gone to seed. And I have a lot of other plants in here. Maypop has taken over. That's the native passion fruit. But the problem is, when it drops its fruit, it drops all in this ground cover, and I don't even see the fruit. So this could be like my whole project if I didn't have anything else. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, I hope you subscribe if you haven't already. Click the subscribe button and scroll down to all so you won't miss an episode here on the homestead. I do a lot of medicinal plants and weeds, talk about weeds, and I grow a huge crop garden and perennials, and I also do some cooking videos, one-pot meals and food preservation. So I hope you subscribe. I hope that's of interest to you, and share with a friend. Hit that like button on your way out. And I forgot to mention that the giant ironweed is the host of the American lady caterpillar. So don't think that's a pest if that gets on your ironweed. And it also attracts goldfinches, as I said, for the seeds. So the late Boneset is going to attract any pollinator in the fall when there's nothing else blooming. So you really want to have these two plants in your pollinator or butterfly garden. Thanks so much for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.